365 Sports, Paul Catalina here at the home studio and recording here with Jared Sandler, Rangers Radio Network. And Jared, coming off of the World Series going into last year, anything short of a World Series from now on for Rangers fans will be some grade of a letdown, because it never happened before winning all that. But here we are 2 years removed from it. And this is a team that was very injured last year and appears, at least so far through the first 3 weeks or so of spring training, that this is a healthy team now. How much does that change the outlook of what's going on?
Yeah, I think there's an excitement level that this camp has that the 2023 camp didn't have. Remember 2023 team was coming off a really down 2022, and there were some questions. Is it a playoff team? Is it not a playoff team? The hope was, hey, let's just play competitive games in September, get in the playoffs, see what happens. And, they ended up winning the World Series. But now once you've done that, I think it raises the bar in terms of what is fair and realistic from an expectation standpoint. And so, yeah, last year was not the type of year that anyone wanted. You can put it on injuries. You can put it on guys just not performing well, probably a combination. But guys are healthy, and I think there's an optimism that certain guys are going to bounce back, plus the moves that were made this offseason. I think there is a very palpable energy in this camp and an excitement to get the season started for that reason.
Essentially, it's kind of a whole new pitching staff when you have DeGrom back at the top. Now, Evaldi's back. You've got some young guys that are really. Jack Leiter appears to be taking that step. Kumar Rocker was a revelation at the end of last season and how he's bounced back. Not to mention the guys that they have that have come back that are kind of battle tested in that. Is there an energy because of now DeGrom, Evaldi at the top that should allow the young guys to kind of hit the ground running?
Yeah, I think there's definitely an excitement with Jacob DeGrom's return. Now, he's not going to pitch on opening day. He will pitch sometime that first week. And I don't know how the Rangers are going to handle Jacob DeGrom in terms of managing innings and just being smart and cautious to keep him healthy, because the goal is not to have an exciting month of Jacob DeGrom. The goal is to have an exciting season and hopefully a postseason as well. But, there are certain athletes in any sport who perform at a level that is so above and beyond what is even typical for a great player. And when their peers are marveling at what they're able to do, it leaves an impression. And that's how the Rangers players, I'm sure the Mets players as well, they behave in terms of, Jacob DeGrom's ability and the way they interact with us in talking about Jacob DeGrom. And I think when you can get that guy back on the mound, it does give your team a little bit of a morale boost. And the rotation with DeGrom and Evaldi, regardless of what happens after that, that's a heck of a 1-2 punch. And then, if you do get a step forward from Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter, and, once Cody Bradford's healthy again, you get production from him. And let's not forget that John Gray is still a really good pitcher, and Tyler Mahle. And so I think what's exciting is just the depth that this rotation has to go along with the top end talent with DeGrom and Evaldi.
The two, I guess, big offensive free agent additions were Jock Peterson and Jake Berger. And on the surface, I know that people can look at some of Jake Berger's numbers and be like, he's, his OPS is probably lower than you want it to be, but he's also never been in a lineup like this. He's a power upgrade at first base for sure. And same with Jock Peterson in that, these seem to be guys who will fit well, smoothly into that clubhouse and bring that new energy.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, Paul, we look so often at needs from a standpoint of the lineup. All right, we need a first baseman, we need a this position, we need a that position. But And obviously that's important, because without a spot to play, you acquire a guy, it's irrelevant. But I think sometimes, because there are guys who can do multiple things, you look at your needs less from a position standpoint and more from a skill set standpoint. And I think with Jake Berger and Jock Peterson, they both bring something that last year's team lacked, and that's the ability to hit the fastball. And specifically with Jake Berger, the ability to hit the elevated fastball. Now, that's not to say that the Rangers lineup is void of other guys who can hit the fastball, but that was a big challenge last year. And so, if Marcus Semien bounces back, I'm sure, the improved ability of hitting the fastball, which has always been a strength for him, is going to be a part of that. So, but with Jake Berger and Jock Peterson, you got the ability to hit the fastball. With Jock Peterson, he's made a habit of crushing right-handed pitching. I mean, one of the best hitters in baseball against righties. The reason why maybe he's not regarded as one of the best hitters in baseball overall is that, he is a platoon player in that regard. He's not a guy who's really going to get a lot of at bats against lefties, and his production just hasn't been at the same caliber against lefties as it has been against righties. But against righties, it is elite. Jake Berger, you're right. He has not been in a lineup like this before. And while he might not be a big on base guy, he's an incredibly aggressive swinger. He brings power. And both Jock Peterson and Jake Berger are, big time home run hitters, guys who can have 30 plus home run seasons. And again, the Rangers last year, you wouldn't think it if you just looked at the names in the lineup, but the last year's team really struggled with the long ball. I mean, you can talk about stringing together base hits and walks and all this stuff, but the single best thing you can do when you're in the batter's box is hit the ball over the fence. And the Rangers changed games in 2023 by being able to do that at a much higher clip than last year. And so the Rangers have added a little more punch against the fastball. They've added a little more punch against right-handed pitching, and they've added more power punch as well in acquiring those two guys. And I think they're going to be great fits for those reasons and more.
The Rangers have a really fun young core with Josh Young, Evan Carter, and Wyatt Langford. If those guys can stay healthy and hit their potential, Wyatt Langford, we'll start with him. I thought his rookie year, I'm sure he would describe his rookie year as fine by his standards. He learned major league pitching. He got to do a lot of things. He didn't hit the home runs I think everybody thought he was going to, but I think if you graded it, you would say okay, that's a good rookie season. That was a productive player. He can take the next step forward. Do you see that he is taking those steps forward? Because I guess if you graded on last year's spring training, every other one in the world maybe seemed down because he was just raking all through March last year.
Yeah, I mean, it was around this time where there was some momentum built. I think I need to look at the date. It might have been a year ago today, or around this time when he hit a grand slam in a night game on TV against the Reds, and everyone was just like, "Oh my gosh, here it's happening. It's all gonna kind of roll into place, and this guy's gonna take the league by storm." But this is tough. And it's not easy. A guy, you think about, he had next to no upper level minor league experience. I mean, very, 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 very minimal. And so for him to even achieve what he did last year was really impressive. And I think what's exciting is, and this has led to expectations again, fair or unfair, but he had such a great end of the season. He wasn't just the AL Rookie of the Month; he was the AL Player of the Month. He had 10 home runs, and he's got the power and speed combo. He can impact the game defensively. He showed tremendous growth in the outfield last year from start to finish, and I think that he's really, I think he's really got the ability to be. I mean, Josh Smith said it. This guy's going to win an MVP, maybe more, and I think that everyone. Well, we were talking about DeGrom earlier and the reverence that people have when speaking of him. I think there's a similar type of excitement that people have when talking about what Wyatt Langford's future is like. Now, should we learn a lesson from last year and maybe not place the otherworldly expectations on him right away? Maybe that's fair. But if you told me that Wyatt Langford took that big leap this year after a year of adjusting last season and really established himself as one of the best players in Major League Baseball, then it wouldn't surprise me either, because I don't think there are a lot of people who are hesitant about their confidence that he is going to get to that point. It's more just a matter of when, not so much a matter of if.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think broke a lot of Rangers fans' hearts was Evan Carter had this kind of nebulous back injury that everybody was worried about, and he was out for the year. I mean, there were those times where it was like Groundhog Day, where you kind of, I'm feeling better, and then it just didn't get there. How is he doing? How does he look? Because he's another guy that he just does a lot of things. Like he's a good in the field. He's a really good contact hitter. Like all these things that you saw from him, especially in that 2023 postseason. If he can be healthy, like again, there's not a lot of guys like Evan Carter just floating around out there.
No, for sure. And he also brings something, Paul, we're talking about skill sets and fits and lineups, and it's not just about position. But, if you think about the guys who you expect to be big parts of this lineup, Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, Josh Young, Jake Berger, these are really aggressive hitters. Adolis Garcia. Evan Carter brings a nice balance because he's not that aggressive. And it's not to say he's not going to swing at a first pitch every once in a while, but I mean, the whole full count Carter thing is corny or cheesy as I think that nickname is. It's a nickname because he works counts. He sees pitches. He's got discipline. And so I think for that reason, he's such a great balance in this lineup with some of the other personalities from a hitting standpoint that you expect to be in there on a daily basis. And I think, his health is as good as it can be right now. I mean, he's on a normal schedule. He's ready to go. I think the big question, along with the health, when it comes to Evan Carter, is he a platoon player or is he an everyday player? And I don't think we're going to have a definitive answer, right now. I don't think we're going to have a definitive answer by the end of the All-Star break. It might not be until the end of the season when we have a definitive answer. But I think, because of the skill sets that you talked about, the skill set you talked about, and the talent and the uniqueness of what he brings, you'd love for that guy to be an everyday player, but he's got to get some experience hitting lefties. And the crazy thing is, because of the combination of his injuries and how quickly he progressed through the minor league system, he really has limited upper level minor league or major league experience against lefties. You'd like to see maybe 1,000 plate appearances against lefties before you really get a sense of, what this guy is or who this guy is. And he just hasn't had anywhere near the amount of repetitions against talented left-handed pitchers. I don't care what he did against some A-ball kid a few years ago, but what about the double-A pitcher who's going to be in the big leagues, or the guy in triple-A or big league pitching? And that's what the Rangers really need to see. And I think this is going to be a big year for Evan Carter to have a lot of success against righties, but then show growth against lefties.
I mentioned Josh Young before. There are players who are injury prone because they're injury prone, right? Like it's always a hamstring or it's a shoulder or whatever. Josh Young is the unluckiest player, hit by pitches and effort plays and things like that. It seems to me that he is a spark plug for the lineup when he's in a way that I guess it's kind of hard for me to describe. Like even on days where, he might be 1 for 4 with a seeing eye single, he's still just, there's an energy about him when he was in the lineup that when he's not there, it's just different for everybody. And this is a lineup with a guy who would be the MVP every other year if Shohei Ohtani didn't exist in Corey Seager. But Josh Young's got a bit of an X factor quality to him. Am I putting too much in that? But it really does feel like he elevates it anytime he's in there.
No, I think you're right. 100%. There's he brings, again, we not to go back to this again, but we talk about skill set and fit in a lineup. And, he's a guy who, when you need to score a runner from third base with less than 2 outs, he's a guy who does that sort of thing. He'll put together a good at bat in, a certain situation that might not end up in a, 2-run double, but he's going to be productive in some way, right? He goes up there with a plan. I think his energy, just in general, being in the lineup, being present, being active, plays a huge role. He's really good defensively. I think that he is quietly becoming a leader on this team too. So, I 100% agree. And, I just would love to see what a full season of Josh Young looks like, because, that's an all-star player. He didn't just luck into starting the All-Star game back in 2023. That's who he is, but obviously need the full season or close to it to be able to fully show that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how much I buy into, well, this lineup wasn't good last year solely because Josh Young wasn't there. I just think in this sport, one guy just can't make that much of an impact. at least the degree to which some people were suggesting last season.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that Josh Young's impact on this lineup goes beyond just whatever numbers the box score show, or how the computer processes those numbers, and an impact type standpoint. I do think he's one of these guys who has an intangible impact on the lineup, and having him healthy will be huge.
Would the biggest concern be the bullpen and how that's going to shake out right now? Is that it? Because outside of health, obviously, that's a thing, but they appear to have addressed everything in turn. But when it comes to the bullpen, that is more than anything in baseball a year-to-year proposition. A guy can go out and have 50 saves and then have 12 the next year. It is the kind of hottest hand position that you can get in closer.
Yeah, I think if you look at the playoff teams last year, half of them changed, their closer in the middle of the season. So even, for good teams, they're going to have bumps when it comes to this sort of thing. And that to me is if you really want to get specific, it's the ninth inning. I really don't have a ton of concerns about the bullpen. I don't know that this is going to be the 2024 Cleveland Guardians or anything, but I don't have a ton of concerns about this bullpen. Because I think one of the things they did this past off season was, in Chris Young's words, they raised the floor and they signed a bunch of guys who, I think are going to limit some of that volatility. I think the question to me is who's got the ninth, because we know that, that inning can be different as much as, on paper, it's no different than any other inning. It's just 3 outs. It's different. And, is it going to be Luke Jackson? Is it going to be Robert Garcia? I still think that at the end of the day, if I, was in a position to put some money on anything, and I don't bet on baseball, but if I was forced to, I would say Emiliano Teodo leads the team in saves, even though he's not going to start the season on the big league team. So I think that, there might be a little bit of a time period at the beginning where the team's sorting through some stuff, and roles and comfort and whatnot. But I do think that the bullpen floor, the depth of the bullpen is a lot stronger than it's been in a while. And the other thing too is depth is not a sexy word, but to me, depth is important as anything, maybe second to obviously having talent. But I think that depth without depth, talent is kind of wasted. And the depth on this team, this organization is so impressive. And there's so many guys, whether it's Emiliano Teodo, if Mark Church makes the team, then he wouldn't count towards this. But if he doesn't, Mark Church, Robbie Alstrom, Cody Hoyer, just a bunch of guys that the Rangers, I think, can call up to help supplement the bullpen at times this year, who, when they come up, they've got good stuff, right? It just seems like in the last few years, the guys the Rangers would call up for the, bullpen support, when guys get hurt or aren't performing, it's like, well, yeah, there's a reason why this guy wasn't up. Whereas now I think there's some guys they're going to be able to call up where it's like, oh man, like, yeah, this guy's not going to go back down. And so I think that that's going to ultimately play out over a long season favorably. There just might be some bumps initially in April.
Last thing, this division, if you had asked me to pick a favorite right now, I would say everyone or no one, because they all have, questions. The Rangers appear to me to be, like, as far as everybody knows what everybody's going to be doing, the Rangers are the one that have the lineup, the rotation, and everything set. The Astros are the Astros, but they appear to be in a period of transition right now. I mean, when you talk about moving Jose Altuve to left field, like, that's a big transition for them. The Sacramento A's, who knows? The Mariners have a good pitching staff, but they don't appear to have addressed their lineup, which was the issue all that much. And then the Angels appear to have done some things, but they're still the Angels, and they're kind of building it all around guys who've been hurt a lot. Is this a chance for them, because they appear to be the team with the arrow pointed truest north right now, a chance to maybe get out in front a little bit if they start hot?
Yeah, no, I think so for sure. The 2015 Rangers were awful to start the season, coming off a bad year, a disappointing year, and they ended up winning the division. And, if the Rangers start 8-16 like the 2015 Rangers, not a big deal, But, yeah, I do think that, you're looking for a changing of the guard, and you don't want to I mean, if you can kill that narrative, then that's great. You get off to a great start. Now, I will say in 2023, the Rangers got off to a great start, and they didn't end up winning the division, right? So that's a part of the beauty and the challenge of a 162 game season. You can be 40-20 through 60 games, and you still got 102 more to play, and you can still lose the division. But yeah, I think so. I'll be honest, Paul. I've picked the Astros to win the World Series more times than not over the last 8 years. So as much as I hate them in terms of projections, I feel like I've approached it pretty fairly. I don't even think they're the third best team of the division. I think as long as playing in Sacramento isn't such a burden that it just prevents the A's from reaching their level of potential or ability, I think the A's are the third best team. I think the Mariners are the biggest threat to the Rangers. But the one question with the Mariners, you mentioned the lineup, and I think that's fair. Although I would say a full year of Randy Arozarena, an improved season from Julio Rodriguez could change the complexion of that. The thing that concerns me is, they had such a remarkable season last year with all their pitchers staying healthy, and here we are already. George Kirby is going to start the season on the IL, and it's just so tough these days. I mean, I hate it, but it sucks that it's so rare that pitchers stay healthy. And so for all five of them to stay healthy last year, for the most part, I wonder what this year looks like. Now, if they all stay healthy, then the Mariners are going to be really, really good. And maybe not if they all do. Let's say four of them largely are healthy. But what if last year catches up and there's a little bit of a breakdown from a health standpoint, and they got to dig into their depth from a pitching standpoint? That would be interesting. But I do think that the Mariners are really, really good. Their bullpen isn't as good as it's been in years past, at least on paper right now. It's still a good group. And I actually do think, while I'm confused at their inability to commit to building the lineup, I do think their lineup is probably better than people are giving them credit for. I just don't think Julio Rodriguez is going to be as bad this year as he was last year for as long as he struggled. I mean, I think, gosh, post All-Star break, he had like a sub 700 OPS, and I just don't see that happening.
Jared Sandler, Rangers Radio Network. And Jared, I say this every time we have you on. You guys, year in and year out, are one of the most compelling broadcasts, most fun to listen to. I mean, obviously, when you've got a Hall of Famer and Eric Nadel around and all that, it's always been great. Love hearing you guys. I don't I know the TV thing has been a disaster for a lot of major league teams lately, but at least we're in a good spot where I can just I don't need to see pictures. I can just listen to you guys. You guys are so great. And thank you so much for hopping on with us, and enjoy your next couple weeks out there in Surprise, Arizona, before you get back to the real world here.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for having me on.
That's Jared Sandler with us here on 365 Sports.